The year was 2019. Godzilla was fighting King Ghidorah in Boston. Godzilla and King Ghidorah were going at it back and forth, back and forth. It was hard. Godzilla, amped up, supercharged, was bashing Ghidorah, ripping his scales out. Ghidorah doing the same thing to Godzilla. They were battling, titans everywhere, Mothra, Rodan, battling. Skull Island was being consumed by the storms. Godzilla tearing at Ghidorah, trying to rip off one of his heads, but Ghidorah was just too quick, biting down on Godzilla's arm. Ghidorah threatening to end Godzilla's whole existence. Godzilla thought too much. He used his atomic breath to blast Ghidorah away, sending him crashing down into the ground. Rodan, coming from behind, bashing Godzilla, flying headfirst into Godzilla. Of course, this hurt Rodan badly, but also hurt Godzilla. Godzilla fell right onto a building, crashing down. He got back up quickly. It wasn't a big burn, but it was something. It wasn't that powerful, but it gave him enough time to get up, though. Godzilla grabbed Rodan, quickly throwing him off, throwing him towards Mothra, impaling him quickly. Rodan was out of this fight. Ghidorah got up, looking at the both of them, smiling. Mothra was weak. She couldn't do anything. Godzilla standing there, both bloodied and beaten. Ghidorah roared, healing himself. Godzilla roaring back. He ran towards Ghidorah. Ghidorah flew towards him. Godzilla quickly did a nuclear pulse, pulsing. Ghidorah falling to the ground. He was about to finish Ghidorah, but Methuselah came from behind, hitting Godzilla, stabbing him with his tusks, but it incinerated at the sheer power of Godzilla's radiation. Behemoth backed down. He didn't want to lose his one last tusk on his head. And he did not want to lose his life, so he bowed down before Godzilla. But not before Ghidorah slammed into Godzilla, throwing him off balance, throwing him to the ground. Grabbing Godzilla, he started to absorb Godzilla's energy, but Godzilla pulsed out of it, stunning Ghidorah for a little bit. Godzilla quickly got to his feet, ripping off one of Ghidorah's heads, and then quickly breaking the other one's jaw. The left and right head were incapacitated. It was only the middle head that was in this fight. Godzilla thought this would be easy, but the middle head was tricky. He quickly gravity beamed Godzilla in the head, quickly making him bleed from his head. Godzilla didn't know what happened then. He just quickly looked back up. Ghidorah quickly regenerated his head, and because of the sheer power of Godzilla's radiation, it was growing. Ghidorah was getting scared that he would be incinerated by the blast. The left head, regenerating his jaw, roaring back at Godzilla with frustration. He fights valiantly, but ultimately gets defeated. Ghidorah is bloodied and beaten. Godzilla missing some dorsal plates and bloodied and beaten. This dark turn turned out really badly. But Ghidorah saw a grid. He absorbed the energy, pulsing, regenerating his head as well quickly as possible. Well, he already regenerated his head. He quickly grabbed onto Godzilla, dropping him from the sky. Mothra trying to stop this, but quickly is incinerated by Ghidorah. Godzilla was too weak to do anything. His leg was basically broken. His spine was basically broken, but not basically broken. Felt like it was broken. He couldn't get up over the sheer force of trying to get up. He was too weak. Ghidorah slithered towards him. They couldn't find Madison in this timeline because Madison would have been killed by Ghidorah and the Orca was destroyed. So Ghidorah would have absorbed. Ghidorah slithered towards Godzilla, absorbing all of that energy. Godzilla turned dark. His scales were pale. His dorsal plates, no coloration. Nothing was there. The humans were completely flabbergasted. Ghidorah took off to the skies, now fully charged with a crimson lightning. Instead of it being yellow lightning, now he has red lightning. He flies across the cities, burning them down, everything burning before him. He laid waste to Boston, and then he flew off. He took care of the other cities, Moscow, London, most of the cities that would take advantage of it. Most of Earth's defenses were down. Humans were suffering. All of the Titans were destroying, wreaking havoc everywhere. Ghidorah, at the center of this, was laughing and smiling until he knew one Titan was to fight him, Typhon. Ghidorah quickly flew over to Antarctica, challenging Typhon. Typhon was instantly incinerated by the presence of Ghidorah. Ghidorah incinerated him quickly. Just by exiting his cave, Typhon saw Ghidorah. He flew into the water, knowing that the water would burn around him. This made Typhon incinerate. Typhon was incinerated within seconds. Ghidorah, not thinking much of the cave, flew off. But Tiamat wished to take this energy. She took it in, powering up, but Ghidorah did not notice. She had a new hue and kept doing her job, because if she didn't follow Ghidorah's orders, she would also end up the same as Typhon. Because Typhon wasn't as... Because she took in Typhon's DNA, and Typhon was not strong enough to take on Ghidorah. He was one-shotted. Tiamat knew she still didn't stand a chance. So they kept attacking Earth, tried bombing and nuking Ghidorah, but nothing availed. But yet, deep in hollow Earth, Scar King was sitting in his fire-ish prison, waiting to be unleashed on the world once again, but yet to no avail. Mothra Prime, she was reincarnated quickly and flew over to the prison where Scar King was. She unleashed her god rays, incinerating the blocks. She flew over to Scar King's lair, quickly reasoning with him, telling that Ghidorah would incinerate the world in seconds. Knowing that Shimo or Scar King would not even stand a chance against him. Sure, Shimo would freeze Ghidorah, but the ice would not do anything. Just like Godzilla in GXK, Shimo would be supercharged. She would be glowing, icy, everywhere. This time she'd be a match. She'd stand a chance against Ghidorah. This would be a 50-50 against Ghidorah. But this was in Scar King's favor. If we somehow defeat Ghidorah with Scar King's army, then that would be bad. But yet a new Titan emerged from all of this, standing against Ghidorah, and could actually take over Ghidorah's heat. Yamata no Orochi, sitting in his fiery prison all the way in Mount Fuji, Japan. He heard Ghidorah's alpha call, but not even heard of it. He thought Godzilla could take care of it, but Godzilla was dead. Not dead yet, but Godzilla was not dead yet. Yamata no Orochi sensed Godzilla was super weak. So then Yamata no Orochi knew what he had to do. He burst out of his fiery prison, roaring out loud. Ghidorah heard this challenge. He started flying towards Tokyo. He started flying towards Mount Fuji. Mara caught its eye. Yamata no Orochi was an apex titan. It was going to challenge Ghidorah for the throne. And then they would go to Skull Island, giving Kong all of these enhancements to make sure he could fight Ghidorah. And Godzilla, well, his pale body stood there, was just laying there. He couldn't move, he was too weak. He had a sliver of energy keeping him alive. Any more hits and he would have died. The US resorted nuking Godzilla being nuked so many times. Godzilla stood up, roaring. Ghidorah didn't know which one to go for, Yamata no Orochi or the new energized Godzilla. Scar King, Godzilla, Scar King, Shimo, Kong, and Godzilla stand together. They all didn't like each other. Godzilla wanted to incinerate Scar King and Kong, but he knew Shimo was under control. So after this battle, Godzilla made sure to kill Scar King. Scar King knew that he was going to kill Godzilla and Kong. Godzilla hated both of them. He also hated Shimo more. As they waited for battle, Yamato no Orochi emerged. They thought Yamato no Orochi was on their side, but he wasn't. He was an alpha titan and wouldn't listen to command. Yamato no Orochi stood alone. Tokyo, all of the titans met there. Ghidorah, burning the very buildings around him. Godzilla, shocked. Scar King, shocked. Kong, shocked. Shimo didn't even know if she could take him. But that's thanks to the power enhancements, she could take him if she could. So, Godzilla and Shimo charge into battle. Scar King and his army charged to Yamato no Orochi, while Scar King's pet Shimo went towards Ghidorah. Godzilla, and Kong. Kong couldn't get close at all, so he went for Yamato no Orochi, knowing that Yamato no Orochi was also powerful. Yamato no Orochi started burning through Scar King's armies, quickly incinerating them. Knowing that his armies were weak, Scar King quickly grabbed Yamato no Orochi's one of his heads and started stabbing it. Yamato no Orochi's head screamed in pain, grabbed Scar King, threw him off. He was on the floor. Scar King was about to get decimated until Kong quickly jumped up and punched all of the heads. Since he punched one head hit the other head, and another hit the other. Stumbling back, Yamato no Orochi got mad. He grabbed Scar King's whip and whipped it, slashing at Yamato no Orochi, getting more mad. Scar King would run away with Kong. They would try and forge a plan to take this kaiju down, but he was just too powerful. They would need Shimo or Godzilla by their side. Back on the other side, Godzilla and Shimo battled with Ghidorah overpowering them. Shimo slammed into Ghidorah, icicles freezing him a little bit, but then just melted off instantly. Godzilla fired his atomic breath, hitting Ghidorah, but to no avail. It stunned for a little bit, and then Ghidorah just kept walking through it. His energized beam wasn't enough. They needed more nukes to energize him. Ghidorah laughed at this attempt. He flew towards Godzilla, kicking him in the head, knocking some teeth out and blood out. Shimo quickly grabbed one of Ghidorah's heads and ripped it off ferociously, and then she instantly bashed in towards Ghidorah, knocking him into a building, but that building was incinerated within seconds. Ghidorah was pissed. His head grew back instantly, and then fired the enhanced crimson beams. The crimson beams crackled, hitting Godzilla painfully, and really painfully. Godzilla's energy protected him from the blast, but it was just burning so badly, worse than Yamato no Orochi's. Shimo could take this heat because she was protected by her ice, but she knew she was not a match. Godzilla's scales burning. Shimo rushed to protecting him. Scar King saw this and got mad. He grabbed the whip off Kong and summoned Shimo over to him. Kong received an upgrade from an armory. He got armor chest that would stand Ghidorah's heat and a strength buff. He would run over to Ghidorah. While Shimo ran over to Yamato no Orochi, slamming into Yamato no Orochi into Mount Fuji, freezing his volcanic lair. Yamato no Orochi fired his fire breath, hitting Shimo real badly. Her attack, she was already weakened from the Ghidorah attack, but Scar King came to her aid, wrapping his wrapping his whip around one of the heads, and quickly tried to rip it off, but to no avail. It just quickly damaged it. But all of the heads really attacked Scar King. Shimo knew this. Knew she had a chance to attack, but attacking would leave Scar King alive. But she had no choice. She slammed Yamato no Orochi to the ground. This time she shattered some of its ribs, stomping down, breaking the others. Yamato no Orochi screamed in pain. As it tried to get up, Shimo wouldn't let it, freezing most of its head and breaking it. There was only one head remaining. Yamato no Orochi tried to get back up, trying to plead with Shimo, but Scar King ordered her to finish her off. Ordered her to finish off Yamato no Orochi. She quickly bit down on Yamato no Orochi's neck, ripping it off. The last head was dead. Yamato no Orochi was dead. Scar King and his forces, and the remnants of his forces, turned towards Ghidorah, seeing the biggest threat there. Godzilla was quickly getting bashed into buildings, skin burning off, and he was quickly getting overwhelmed. Ghidorah tried to rip off Godzilla's arms, or he tried to try and blasted him away. But Kong saved him. Quickly distracting Ghidorah, Kong tried to distract him, but to no avail by getting hit by one of the crimson beams, damaging the armor and hitting his fur. His fur was quickly incinerated. Kong screaming in agonizing pain. This is way more painful than the time on Skull Island, where they let off those fire bombs, burning his fur. Kong was way more weakened this time. His fur burning, armor damaged already. It was just there. How come? But it still withstood the attacks of Ghidorah. Some of the armor cracked, some of the armor still held together. They still tried to bash Ghidorah's head in. Scar King, getting close to Ghidorah, his fur burning, knew he couldn't get closer. Ghidorah was burning with energy. Godzilla was the only one. Godzilla and Shimo and Kong were the only ones that could get close. They got closer, battling with him. They whipped him, slash, slash. It to no avail. To no avail. He just kept regenerating. They needed to find a way to stop this regenerative factor. Monarch worked really hard, day and night. This battle continued for 3 days straight. Godzilla, weakened and tired, Kong, most of his armor burnt off, and the remaining cracking about to fall off. Scar King, his fur was burning, really burning. He was burning badly, but thanks to the Hollow Earth energy he powered up from before going to the fight, Ghidorah, just standing there cackling fearlessly. He thought nothing could stop him at this point, but at this point he heard a mechanical roar. Kiryu came from behind, slicing at Ghidorah. He had this energy blade. They gathered some energy of Ghidorah. Since the fight of Boston, they had Crimson Ghidorah left some of his energy behind. He used it, slicing at Ghidorah. Ghidorah was getting mad. He was fighting with Kiryu. Scar King knew this was a chance. Summoned Shimo. He used his frostbite. Ghidorah, trying to fly in the air, froze Ghidorah's wing. Then Kiryu took advantage and broke it, but Ghidorah just regenerated a new one. Scar King got mad, so this time he decided to command Shimo, riding her into battle. She quickly bashed Ghidorah into the mountain, and then Scar King commanded her to break his ribs. With bone-crushing force, she crushed all of Ghidorah's ribs. Ghidorah screeching in pain, but yet to no avail. It just regrew back. Shimo looking at fear, Ghidorah looking at her fearlessly, quickly blasted at her, throwing her to the ground. She was burnt badly. Scar King tried to whip Ghidorah, but to no avail. Ghidorah grabbed the whip and instantly in his presence it broke. Scar King knew what this meant. Shimo was free. But that wasn't the least of his worries. Ghidorah, the three-headed devil, was standing right behind him. Ghidorah quickly tried to get away, but kicked him down, burning with fur. Scar King tried to get away, but to no avail. Scar King met his doom at King Ghidorah's grasp. Scar King, he was getting gravity beamed from back, front, and the middle. His intestines spilling out, his arm missing, one of his legs were missing, one of his arms were missing. Half of his eye was gone. Half of his head was missing. His brain was sticking out. How at this point he didn't die? With one last force, Ghidorah stepped onto Scar King, killing him. Incinerating him quickly. Putting energy into it. It was burning Scar King's body from the inside. And splat! Scar King was everywhere. Bloody mess. Godzilla knocked out. Most of his teeth were missing, but they regenerated back. They knew they stood no chance. So Godzilla thought of a way to defeat him. Monarch's contingency plan, an oxygen destroyer that was only infused with Ghidorah's DNA. It dropped. Ghidorah just laughing, tried to regenerate the wounds from earlier, to no avail. Ghidorah was shocked and knew if Godzilla and Kong took advantage of this, he might lose. So he had to play this carefully. He knew what would happen if he lost. He would never do this. He got mad. So he tried to fly away. But these effects weren't permanent. Godzilla shot an atomic breath, quickly putting a hole through Ghidorah's wing, falling to the ground, quickly shattering some of his ribs, but not all of them. Kong rushed towards him, burning though. Most of his armor was missing. He punched repeatedly at the three heads. Ghidorah was getting furious, so furious that he decided to grab Kong, burning his arm. His arm was about to be burned off until Godzilla saved him by atomic breathing him away. But it was no avail. Kong's arm was detached from him. Kong screamed in pain, the flesh sizzling. His flesh sizzling still after the burn marks. Ghidorah laughed and knew they would not win this. Shimo on the floor, bloodied and beaten, freezes Ghidorah. He knows he has to finish Shimo off before he gives her a chance to get back up. The two titans charge at Ghidorah quickly, and bashing him. Shimo couldn't get up. She was too tired and bloodied, beaten. She was on the floor. And eventually, she let out her last beam, freezing Ghidorah. Ghidorah tried to get up, but to no avail. Godzilla shattered Ghidorah's other wing. So Ghidorah was missing a wing and a hole in another wing. This was just perfect, he was thinking. Just perfect. He was getting way more matter. At the moment, he started to release more energy, Godzilla. But Godzilla absorbed it. Walking towards him, Ghidorah started to get really scared. He couldn't fly away. He was just weakened. All of his power was gone now. He went to Godzilla. Godzilla, using all of his powers, incinerates Ghidorah. The aftermath. All that avails right now, Godzilla survives the blast. Merely, he was so weakened that he went back into the ocean. Kong, on the other hand, was really weakened. He was missing an arm. But Monarch, due to Monarch's staff and aid, They quickly attached his arm back. Kong, knowing this was the most fearsome fight ever. But the other two titans weren't so lucky. Scar King, Shimo, and the ape forces were gone. But most of the apes still remained in Hollow Earth, and Kong went to go help them. Explaining what would happen, the great apes cheered that Scar King had died. Learning the truth about what Scar King had done, Kong was furious and said he deserved to die. And this was the end of a story where Ghidorah won, but not really won at the end. Godzilla lived a happy life. Kong lived a happy life. Shimo and Scar King, they were gone. Scar King was just sent into ash after Ghidorah. His bloody mess was not even there anymore. He wasn't even a bloody pile. There was no trace of him. And then, Shimo. Her skeleton was obtained. Monarch personnel tried to bring her back from the dead, but to no use. They hoped Kong could help. The great apes knew what they could have done. There was a secret biome that was frozen over by Shimo years ago, before Ghidorah even arrived. They stored her body there. Her body regenerated back with all the same memories. Wait, we shouldn't keep the same Shimo. But yet, another Shimo walked out. This was the descendant of Shimo. She knew if she died, she raised her well. This was the end of the story. A new Shimo came to place. Ghidorah was dead. Scar King was dead. Shimo was dead. But Godzilla and Kong lived on. The end.